Hey folks, it's good to see you all here. We're going to give it a few minutes to allow other people to kind of come into the room, but I have an activity for you while we wait. So let me share screen and put it up. So the PowerPoint is going to scroll through several pictures and cartoons and pictures. And what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to use your creativity, and I would love for you to put either create a caption for the one photo that is in there by putting that down in the chat, or there's some cartoons. If you would like to add a quote to the cartoons, that would be great too. Oops, here we go. All right, we're going to go ahead and begin. If you look and see the name of this workshop and you look and see who's leading it, you might wonder how in the world a person that's associated with our Presbyterian camps and conference centers would possibly want anything to do with cell phones. But if you've attended, some of you have, I can see your names and your faces. Some of you have attended workshops of mine, recreational workshops of mine in the past at APSI. you might know that I love props in games. And so I've always wanted to do a workshop such as this because just about everybody has one of these in their pocket. And so why not use that in games? So today we're going to be talking about a variety of activities that are digital in nature. Some of them do relate to cell phones. Most all of them do in some way, shape, or form. But because of COVID, I've also shifted and added quite a few of them that are also Zoom friendly as well. And there is one thrown in there for, I didn't want it all to be COVID based. So there's going to be one game in here that has to be played after we get out of the pandemic. But so let me start by there's a handout for this workshop is available at this, and I've got the closed captioning across the bottom of my screen. I can't, it's hard for me to get back to the chat. But if you will enter that URL, and if somebody could be so kind as maybe to type that URL into the chat. Jamie, could you do that for me? You can follow along. I wanted you to have the handout so that you didn't have to take notes on the actual descriptions of the activities that we're going to cover today. But you could just take notes on the things that maybe I failed to mention. So in order to talk about leading activities such as this, we've got to keep in mind several things as the actual recreation leader when we're introducing these activities, these games to a group. And one of those is to know that we are going to have remarkably less control than we're used to. We're used to having people in a room. We're used to when that certain junior high boy acts out, word right there, and we can quell that and move on. But now we know that that junior high boy could be on a Zoom call at his house, and we don't really have as much ability to control his actions. So we need to keep that in mind as we, not only as we lead the activities, but also as we come up with new activities to do with them in this kind of digital format. We also need to know that there is an ability to cheat that we didn't have before. You know, to do, like, for instance, an online trivia game, that would be really good, but of course everybody has access to the internet in their pocket, so their answers can come very quickly. And so we need to understand, like, even if we do a photo scavenger hunt, we've got to be really careful with, not careful in the way of, but we need to have an understanding that if you want a picture of something, well, you can go on Google Images and you can find pictures of just about anything. And so if you ask them to go take a picture of a chipmunk and come right back, well, they can really find a picture of a chipmunk and text it back to you without even going outside. And so we need to keep that also in mind as we, you know, as we plan and as we execute these particular activities. One thing is, of course, not everyone has a smartphone. Some people have cell phones that aren't smart or do not have texting capabilities or very limited texting capabilities. And so all of these activities, most all of them, could be done without a smartphone, or but we could definitely have people work in teams where there's at least one smartphone. We need to understand that not everyone has unlimited text. Most all of us do, and that is definitely the wave of the future, but we might have people in our group that do not have an unlimited texting capability. So we definitely want to keep that in mind. And then this area is that some people, some churches even have, you know, if you take a cell phone call in your office, you gotta, you know, hold your tongue just right and stand in a certain corner of the room in order to carry on the conversation without having to go outside. And so we know that there are places, even places where people seem to live in quite in densities that still do not have proper cell phone coverage. So we need to understand that. As we're going through this workshop, if you have any questions, I hope that you'll please put them in the chat. Since I've got limited capabilities to see the chat, Jamie, who's my assistant, she's going to be stopping me, and we'll cover your questions as we go. So the very first the very first activity that's listed on the handout, if you have it, is that it's about a group poll. And so this would be using a company. I just have here this company called Poll Everywhere. This is not a corporate endorsement. This is just me saying that I know that it's free for educators that have less than 40 participants. And so this is not really a game as much as it is an activity where you could put together a questionnaire, whether that be funny or serious, that you could then give to your participants either the week before they come, the day before they come, as they come into the Zoom room, or as they come into the physical room, that they could pull this up on their phone and they could complete these things. And so you could then, some of the questions would be helpful for you as a leader, but some of the questions might be something that you would share maybe as a form of a meme with them later. And so just some interesting things that you might gather from an activity such as this. The next one is add a caption to a picture. And so we've actually done this one already today. And so if you came in early enough, you saw that there was this picture. My first thing when I saw this picture is I thought that maybe a pink jacket and matching pink boots were required for professional pig riding. But you probably came up with something else, or you thought of something else. But you could share this picture with your participants by text. You can even do it by email. You can do it like we've done it here in Zoom. Very similar to the APSI photo challenge that has been going on for this event. This other one this is also kind of like an icebreaker, just to kind of get people moving and doing things, is to add a quote to a cartoon. And you can see that these two cartoons that I gave you, that they used to have words to them. I'll let you read those real quick so you can enjoy what the original author had in mind for those two cartoons. But then you could just go in and then you could just erase what they wrote, and then you could just let people come in with their own opinions and their own things. So these could definitely be used at the beginning or as an ongoing thing that we might occasionally send out to our folks. So name, place, animal, object. Okay. This is what we're doing is that we are giving a letter of the alphabet out to our people. And then what we're doing is we're having them respond to the letter in the alphabet as quickly as they can. And what they're doing is that they are generating a name, as in a person's first name, a place, a name of an animal, and an object that all begin with that same letter. Okay. And so what I'd like you to do is we're going to try that here. So if you could open up the chat down below. Lots of times we do it where it would be a private message to the leader, but we're going to do it, you're adults, we're going to do it as a group. And so if you could get down there in the chat and then make certain that you're clicked on, share it with everyone. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a countdown, and then I'm going to throw out a letter. And just as quickly as you can, if you could do, if it's like the letter T, you could do Terry, Taj Mahal. You can take a picture. I'm not going to come up with all the T's of that. But so I'm going to give you a letter, and then if you could write in the chat as quickly as you can. You ready? Okay, here we go. The letter is G. Those are good. George and Georgia came up a bunch of times. All right. Y'all are really good. You're really good. Okay, I'm gonna give you another challenge. Okay, here we go. Here we go. I, W is the letter. Oops. Okay. Okay. Great. Great. Okay. So we're going to move on. So obviously, this one would be a good one just to kind of get folks thinking, and could obviously be. It could also relate back to the theme. This is that, of course, the four things that we're having them pull out of the air related to the letter could actually be something related to what you're going to be talking about later. And so, feel free to adapt this. But obviously, we could do it here in Zoom. We could also do it as a text. Now, with texting, you're going to want, especially if you're doing it with youth, you're going to want them to all text back to you rather than to be a part of a group text, so that you can kind of, once somebody, again, once somebody feels it gets the four, a lot of people might just cut and paste that and put that as their response. So anyway, we want to stay above that. Okay, so ASCII Pictionary is an activity. It's not Pictionary as in the Pictionary that you have played most likely before. ASCII is the method for drawing, if you will, on a computer screen, just using the characters that are on the keyboard. And so you're limited by, you're not drawing with your hand. You are putting them together using perhaps letters, but more likely things like slashes and parentheses and things like that. And so you're giving the participants, perhaps 5 or 10 minutes to draw something. Draw, I put that in quotes, on their phone, or it could even be as in an email, of something that is not exactly hard to draw. In the handout, I gave examples like a house or a boat. A car is not as easy because it's got wheels, but I'm sure you could use zeros or something like that for the wheels. But a church. And so I gave myself a 5-minute challenge to see how long it would take me to do a church. And this is the church I created. Making a cross proved to be my hardest part. But you could see I used a lot of slashes. I used the capital I. I used an L for the cross as a part of the cross. But anyway, you could see how that you could have your group produce these. And so you would not play Pictionary as in somebody would be watching somebody for 5 to 10 minutes creating this. That would be the longest game of Pictionary anyone has ever played. No, I was thinking more along the lines of that they would create these and then you would then send them out to maybe the other team or send it out to another group to let them figure out if they can guess what it is. And maybe there's some hints or maybe things along the lines. I also think it'd be kind of fun to have these drawn and then just occasionally during, if it's either through text or through Zoom, this is shared and the group has to kind of yell out what they think they are. I don't know how, if you had people that might be particularly challenged by this, you might need to remember which one is which so that you know that that one is indeed a car in case it's really hard to recognize. Nature slideshow by email. So by the name, it is by really email alone is really the best way to do this activity. But what would happen is that let's just say I had all of you together and we're going to go outside. Those of you who took my games workshop when we were down in Orlando, we actually did play this game because we were outside. And so I send you all out with your phone that's the camera that's on your phone, and you're taking pictures in nature. Now, what is different between maybe these pictures and just any picture that you might try to do of nature is that you've got to position yourself so that nothing that's made by humans is caught in the frame. So we just want nature and just nature. So if it's a rose that's on a bush that's up against a car, a house or a car or something like that, then we're going to need to turn the camera around so we just see the rose and not other things made by humans. And so we also, because there's so many of you, and you would just go out and maybe maybe not know exactly what to take a picture of, or maybe you would all end up taking pictures of maybe the same thing. Maybe I'd give you a category. And so like Mac and Alicia, you would do tree trunks. And like, maybe Katie and Kimberly, you would do like, you would have grasses, or you would have the limbs on trees, or the roots of trees, or when we do different categories. And so I teach, not only am I the executive director of the Presbyterian Church Camp and Conference Association, I also teach both a camp and conference class and a recreation class at Columbia Theological Seminary in Decatur, Georgia. And so I had the honor of teaching my camp class online for the very first time. That was not for the squeamish, but anyway, so we did play this game with them. And so these are pictures that they took of from their house, from in and around their house, or maybe they took a walk in their neighborhood to find. And so these are photos that they did. Okay, so
Joel, this is Jamie this is Jamie. We just had a question in the chat about whether you'd be able to share these slides with us later.
I can do that. Yeah, I can do that. I'd have to share them by, I'd have to share it as a PDF. So the problem is that the transitions wouldn't happen, Jamie, but I can definitely do it because the pictures that I'm using, as you know, using pictures in a PowerPoint, they've got to be huge. And so in order to have the right resolution, yeah, I'm happy to do that.
Thanks.
So with the nature slideshow, going back to those, thinking about those pictures, is that perhaps while if you are able to do it kind of face to face when you send people out with their cell phones, with their cameras, maybe they are emailing you as they're out there in the field doing different things. And so what's important, we make certain that they have their cameras when they're taking pictures, that they're taking pictures in the landscape mode and not portrait. The reason why we want them to be in landscape mode is because we'd like to use these pictures as a part of a slideshow. And so we want to have like a rectangle, like the screen is that you're looking at right now. And so, so we wanted to fill that screen as much as possible and not be a portrait. So I could see you using the pictures from this as a slideshow for when they come back, they want to see what everyone else took pictures of. Maybe you could use it even as they go through the slideshow, they could explain, oh, well, this happened and we took a picture of this and then the bird flew by or whatever. But then also it could be, maybe there's going to be a litany or something that you're going to do in worship. And maybe you'd have this slideshow running on a cycle or a loop or something like that as it's happening, where people would have these pictures. Maybe you're on a retreat. I mentioned in the handout also that for older groups, you could give them more time and give them a more involved quest when it comes to the pictures. I said in the handout that maybe you're asking them to look for taking pictures of transformation or community or resurrection or rebirth or something like that, where maybe you're giving them a lot of time, or maybe it's over the course of a day. Or if we're doing this with a group, we don't have to be face to face, and so it could be over a week or something where folks are encouraged to take a picture. So the next activity I have for you is called Telephone by Text. And a strange name, but some of you will remember this is the one activity that is definitely not for times of COVID. I wanted to throw this in, but a lot of you remember the game that you played called Telephone, where you had a phrase and then you whispered it into the ear of the person next to you. And then that person took what they heard and tried to whisper into the ear of the next person. It went all the way around. And of course, by the time it got all the way around the circle, it was nothing close to what was the original phrase. And it was a fun game, but and it kind of an easy game to do with a group. But what you've done with this one is that every other person is not whispering, they're texting. And so what I would do is I would whisper into the person next to me. I would whisper, I would whisper this phrase, and then that person would then, instead of whispering it to the next person, they would actually write it in a text and text it to the next person. And then that person would then whisper what they received in that text to the next person. It would go back and forth by being whispered in text, all the way around the room till it got all the way back. And so we can probably guess that it is also going to get garbled over the course, and you'll see some creative probably spelling of words that they didn't understand. But this also, we need to make certain that everybody in your group has the phone number for everybody else, and that they're able to text, or however they're going to text, to communicate that to the next person. Okay, so photo scavenger hunt. The photo scavenger hunt is an old one. I mean, it dates all the way back to cameras that used film, that you would maybe send your youth group out to. Maybe they're riding around your town trying to take pictures in front of the favorite ice cream place, or they're taking a picture together, different places around town. So this is kind of just a modern take on that. What's happening here is that we've encouraged folks to, what they're doing is that we give them maybe items in nature, maybe we give them items that could be found around the church buildings if they were to look around. Maybe it could be landmarks where we have them driving places, but it could also be maybe we're on a retreat at a retreat center, and maybe it's landmarks or places where they would take their pictures from. It's important because you remember I talked about cheating. I think it's important to have have the group, if you're doing it as a group, is to have the group actually pictured with the item. So if they're finding a pine cone, it's not just a picture of a pine cone, it's all of them holding the pine cone. But a take on photo scavenger hunt that I don't think is used much, but definitely could be used during COVID, is having a photo scavenger hunt where everyone is doing this individually, where you're having the members of your youth group, you're having the members of your Sunday school, they're all going out and they are individually have to go and they have to find and take a picture with this item. And so maybe this is a way, so it doesn't necessarily have to be in teams like the old version was. Just want to remind you again that we again want them to take the pictures in landscape mode and not portrait, because a lot of these would be really, really nice to be able to put into a slideshow to show everyone else what everybody encountered. So this could also be done with families. I think this was a really, really great one for families. And so could definitely be done with the group coming together. And this one, I think, is one of the best ones with families, where the younger ones you could see going and finding whatever the item is, maybe in the woods, and then the parents kind of tagging behind and then catching up with them and then getting all their picture taken together with that item. So moving on to guess that movie. Okay, so this is kind of like the one where I gave you the countdown and you had to get the name of the person. Okay, so I need you to get your chat back out again. Go down there and get the chat. And again, we would normally kind of do it. It would be a personal chat to me, but let's not do that. Let's do a chat to everybody. And so you've got to see if you can name it maybe quicker than everybody else. And yes, spelling does count. Okay, are you ready? Ready? So what's going to happen is in just a moment, there's going to be a picture from a movie, and you have to type the title of that movie into chat and hit enter as quickly as you possibly can. All right. one. All right. All right. We got a lot of Titanics out there. Okay, good, good. Okay, so, all right, here we go. There's another one. Okay, Casablanca, Casablanca. All right, so we can also make these a little harder. And so this next one is a little harder. Some of you are going to know what it is, but I'll show you. You'll see how I made it a little tougher. All right, so this one is Good Will Hunting, and so made it tougher by kind of taking Robin Williams, cropping him kind of out of the picture, although you can see his hands. But you might do this, you know, as your group gets better and better, and like if you have obviously with an intergenerational audience, you'd have a wide variety of people with a wide variety of movie experiences, and so keeping it mixed up. But I would encourage you to make it tougher as time goes on, and actually, I think that there would be some people that would actually be able to guess the movie just by a tight picture of like one prop that's in it, like one particular prop that's particularly memorable for that movie. You know, there's all sorts. I mean, we can name any kind of movie, and you could see that you could have just a picture of like a lightsaber, and that would be, you know, somebody would maybe not having a whole franchise is kind of harder to guess, but you would know that it was Star Wars. You know that. Okay, so photo share. I'm gonna stop. So what I'd like to do is I would like for you to get out your cell phone. If you are using your cell phone to actually be a part of this Zoom call, then I've got to work around for that. So what I'm gonna do is I'm about to split the 75 of us into breakout rooms. I'm going to do. There's going to be 2 people in every room. Hopefully, it's an odd number, so we'll see what it does. You may end up with the GNTV logo. I don't know, but anyway, anyway, you're going to be with somebody, and you're going to be in there for. I'm going to give you like about 8 or 9 minutes, and this is what I would like you to do. Is I'd like you to go to your phone. I'd like you to click on photos. Okay. And I would like you to look at the photos that you have taken that are in your role that are recent. And I'd like you, if you're pick one that you would feel comfortable about sharing with that person. And so I just was in snow this past weekend. Some of you were, but I'm from North Carolina, so that's not very often. And so what I would do is maybe I would take my snow picture and I would hold it up to the camera on my laptop so that you could see my snow picture. And so what I'd like you and your person that you end up getting paired with, I would love for you each to share a picture with the other person, and we'll take 10 minutes. And if you'll just share a little bit about what this picture, why you chose this one, and a little bit about, you know, what it is and what it has to do with your life. So if by chance you are using your phone in order to be a part of this Zoom, then what I'd love for you to do is I'd love for you to, if you're so bold, is to get the other person's cell phone number and text them the picture. And then they will have it and be able to see it. So if you don't have any questions, I'm going to send you into, so what I'll do is I will give you a little warning about a minute out, and then we'll all come back. Okay. All right. Here we go.
No one came to join me, Joel.
Well, they didn't. Can you show me your picture?
Yes. Most of my pictures that I take are my animals.
Okay.
So these are my dogs.
Okay. Hold on. I'm getting some reflection. Okay. Can you move
Is
it
that
this way? Can you move it? Okay. Yeah. So I
How's
see
that?
2 dogs. I see 2.
Yes. You
Oh,
now
and there's
also,
one. I'm seeing one in real life. He's in real
yes,
time.
you've seen one in your life. These tend to join me on Zoom, but they're great company. Peach is in the forefront of the picture and on Zoom is 6 and Piper is 8 months old.
Wow.
So it's unusual to get them all in both in the same picture, but that's what I got.
That's very cool. Well,
Now
Susan, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say they've been good company in the pandemic, and we've walked quite a few miles. So
I bet. This is my picture. Okay.
okay,
It's a terracotta warrior. From China.
Right.
I've always had a fascination with those.
Mhm.
And there was somebody in my neighborhood or nearby on the Nextdoor app. I'm kind of addicted to that.
Okay.
Who is selling him for $80. He is life size and weighs 220 pounds. He's from China. He's made of solid clay. His head can come off. I guess that's why in the Terracotta Warriors, all their facial expressions were different. And so, but he is now downstairs in my house.
Well, good.
But I never thought that I would ever own a life-size Terracotta Warrior, but I do now.
Is he a replica or a real or?
He's a replica. He's an exact. He was cast from the original ones. So he comes from China. I'm not boasting on my price, but I did get him for $80. And if I wanted another one just like him, it'd cost me $620.
Wow.
But that's mine.
Nice.
Ari, Gina, were y'all in a small group? Did y'all?
Hi, I just got here. I've been helping people get on their workshop. So hello, everybody.
You're a good person. We have all sorts of people that are going to be coming back. They are in pairs, and what we've done is we were just opening up our phones and grabbing a picture off of what was on our roll,
Okay.
and just sharing it with one other person.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so you got to tell me in the chat, like, what was the nature of the pictures? How many of you was it an animal? Okay, I've seen quite a few thumbs up on that. 3 dogs, that's good. Office window, that's good. So we could definitely take this particular activity and we could go a lot of different directions with it. We could have them obviously share like we've done here, but we could also, especially while COVID is still going on, we could definitely have folks maybe go and take a picture of a part of their house. Maybe it's a show and tell kind of an item that they go and they take a picture of and then come back and then show it to us. Maybe it's something that can't be moved or something like that. Maybe it's a tour, if you will, part of their house or something like that. But there's a lot of different things that we could do with this particular activity. Okay, go back to. Okay, so click on this to make it do something. Okay, so we definitely, this would be a great activity, obviously, for adults and people who can be responsible with the kind of pictures that they might share in a group. But this would be ways in which we could get to know people. People love, I mean, if a picture is on somebody's phone and they haven't deleted it yet, then it likely has some kind of meaning for them. And so just a great opportunity for them to share that. We're going to see with, some groups, we're going to see lots of pictures of grandchildren, or we're going to see, maybe some renovation that somebody just did to their house, or, who knows. Okay, so this is a book that I would recommend to you. I've listed it in the handout, which I'm going to give you the link to that one more time before we stop. But this is one of the few books that I have found that actually relates to this subject. But I will put a caveat to this, is that you will see that it was written in 2009. It was December of 2009, but still, that's 2009. And so, so even some of the things that are in this book are perhaps a little dated. And so, but I think that if you get this book, and I own it, it's right here next to me, I think it's a really, really good book for getting the germ of the idea of what you could do with your group. And it has a ton of activity. It is not a small book. Another book that I will share with you is only those that are deeply involved in this kind of thing and would have adult groups and would need to facilitate them. This is mostly pandemic related. Is a brand new book. It just came out last month called The Learning Curve by Jim Kane. I don't have the information like this, but you can find it. I think you can find it now. I mean, this is an advanced copy, but I will warn you that this is not a game book. This is not a book that gives you activities to do. It is more talking about how to facilitate groups in a virtual reality. And it's written by a game book leader, Jim Kane, who's actually happens to also be Presbyterian. But I just throw that out to you. Something that if I ever talk about books, I always ask the question is, where is the best place to buy books? And I throw it out to the group, and people throw out, and most people say Amazon. And I want to reinforce the fact that Amazon is not always the best place to buy books. And so, especially if you don't mind buying used books. And so just like when you fly, you don't just fly with one airline unless maybe you live next to a hub. You actually use a website that shows you multiple airlines, and you tend to go with a lower price. And so I just happened to do the search for, it's allbookstores.com. So we know that for a lot of church people, you go to heaven based on how many books are on your bookshelf, not necessarily by how many you've read. But and so you tend to buy lots of books. And so allbookstores.com. So this is what would have been produced for that first book that I gave you. This is what, so we can see that eBay has one that's used that's the cheapest. And we can see Amazon down further, and you say, well, I get free shipping with Amazon. Yeah, not as many people get free shipping on used books as on new ones, but you can see that there's digital downloads, there's ebooks, they're all on there, and they run them all against each other with shipping. And so I throw that out to you as a really, really good way to buy books. Okay, so I'm interested in hearing what other games have you played using a smartphone or using technology in your, either at church or in maybe in another venue. So take off your mute and let us know.
Not with the smartphone, but can I share other game that we played, or is it just
Yeah,
the
sure.
smartphone?
Is it related to technology?
Yes.
Okay, then please tell us about it.
We played match game on our Zoom with our Presbyterian women. And so we had one team or the whole group played instead of having the contestants. What fun. And then you get to see the different generations of how they answer different questions. Since we played at Christmas, it's where did your parents hide your gifts? The older adults said the barn. The middle age group said the closet, and the younger group said the garage. So that's how we could tell the difference in the generations because of living in the city.
That's great. That's great. I'm glad that y'all did that. Anybody else have another game?
My group has played the board game Codenames online. So there's the people who designed the game have put a free version of how to play online. And so it's, you have to figure it out. I had to watch a couple of YouTube videos to really learn how to play it because it's, they don't have instructions on the website. But my middle schoolers have loved it. We play it every week. It takes about half an hour for a game to go through a whole game, but they ask for it every single week.
Bethany, can you give us just kind of a thumbnail sketch about what this game is like? I mean, what does it involve?
Yeah, so I just dropped the link in the chat for what we've used, but Codenames is basically there's a grid of words, and some of them are color coded into one color, and there's a red team and a blue team, and some are coded red, some are coded blue, some don't have a code, and there's one that's coded black that's an assassin. And there's one person who's a spy master, and the rest are operatives. And so the spy master's job is to come up with a hint or a clue that matches as many of their color cards up and one word to describe it. So if there's things like water, ice, and steam, they might do H2O. And then their team members, their operatives, have to pick which ones are assigned to that. And it gets difficult sometimes because maybe you have water and ice, but steam is on there, and steam is the other team, or steam is the assassin. And you have to figure out a way to just get them to pick your words and not other ones. And the game ends when you've found all your operatives or someone picks the assassin.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, somebody else give me another game that you've played.
I've done a variation of kind of your photo sharing one, but it turns into more of a prayer activity than a game per se, where you have the kids take their phone or tablet, whatever device, and first you have them open up to their text messages, and you give them 30 seconds and just silently they pray for like the top 3 or the top 5 people that they've texted or texted them. Then you have them open up a social media account, doesn't matter which one, if they have one. If they don't, you can just have them open up like their email or something. And again, you give them like 30 seconds and they pray for like the top 3 things that show up in their feed. Have them open up their photos, and you can either give them a number, like pick the 5th picture, or pick the top 3 pictures, most recent, and you pray for those people or those situations. And then I've done with adults too, where you have them open up a news feed or a news app and have them pray for like the top 3 headlines that they see.
And I don't know if you said it, Heather, but also I've seen it done with contacts. They open up their contacts and they, yeah, well, that's good. That's really good.
We use a program website called Download Youth Ministry. And you get these, like, there are some for free. You can buy like a membership to this website, and you can download these PowerPoints, and these PowerPoints have like games. So like one of the PowerPoints, for instance, was like, you had to guess the church story, but all of the church stories are in emoji form. So that's kind of fun. Or like there's fun ones too that are like would you rather. So it's really a really fun program that we've been using since the pandemic started.
That's great. Thank you. Who else?
I've done one on Zoom with my 1st through 5th graders on Wednesday night, and we've been doing rock, paper, scissors tournaments. And the kids asked to do it again the following week. So that's been a popular one.
That's great. That's great, Joe. Thank you.
I did one for the first time with my high school group last week. And I went and researched different games online, and I found Jimmy Fallon. This is a takeoff on what he did, and I named it Would I Lie to You? So I gave them all, before we got together, I said, you either use your imagination and think if you are going to lie to the group, or you're really going to go and find a very unique, strange object that when you are describing it, it would kind of be hard to believe. And they loved it. It was a total success. So that's what I named it. Would you lie to me? And, you know, we would do like a thumbs up if it's like, yeah, that's a real object, or a thumbs down. No, you're not telling the truth.
That's a great idea, Hannah. That's a great idea.
I'm going to do a game next week with the families on Zoom. We're calling it family charades. That's what you do is each family takes turns and picks a Bible story, and then they turn the camera off, they get all set up, and then they turn the camera back on, and they have like a frozen position, and we have to try to guess which Bible story it is they're using. And so it's a non-competitive game, but it's a way of reviewing the Bible stories we've done.
Oh, that's great. That's great, Kat. That's great. Who else?
I have a game. Hold on.
Okay.
I see myself. Okay. It's called Chain Thing, and it's a Zoom game. So essentially, everybody turns their cameras off, and they have to change one thing about their appearance. So, for example, right now, I have my hair down. If I turn my camera off, and then I turned it back on, you'd have to guess what I changed about myself. And it's that I put my hair up. And so everybody participates, and it's fun for everybody to kind of like look and see like what's the one thing that you changed. And our youth have really enjoyed that game.
That's great. That's great. I love how like a lot of these games we've played before, but you know, they work with Zoom. I love it.
So I have a middle school, high school kind of mixed group, and they are very active kids. So a lot of the time Zoom doesn't really work well if it's just like a sitting game. So I actually just took a normal scavenger hunt, and I just gave them one object at a time. So for the first round, I did just random things that most people would have in their house. And the first one back to the screen with the object got the point. And so it got them up and moving. It was very, very popular. And then, so another way that we changed it a bit, so it was a little bit different because they kept asking for it again. I made it into a hint before I gave them things. So I gave them a little rhyme about what the object was. They had to figure it out first, then go find it and come back. So it gave it a bit of a little bit of a difference, but it's a really good one for getting them active, because a lot of the time with Zoom, yeah, we're just sitting there staring at a screen. I know a lot of our kids are really overwhelmed because they're online learning already. So that was a really good one to get them moving.
Great, great. That's good.
When we talk about the disciples, I send all the kids an email that had an attachment with a picture of all the disciples, and the parents cut them all apart and hid them all over wherever they're Zooming, and they had to go find all 12 disciples. You could probably do that with just about anything. So I'm with whoever said active games are awesome.
Right. That's really good. That's really good. Good idea. Especially involving the parents. That's good too.
Yeah.
These are really, really good. Does anybody else got another one? I bet you do. You're thinking about sharing it. Go ahead and do it.
I
It's a
have
version of
one.
the scavenger hunt.
Uh-huh.
I'm sorry.
But
Go ahead.
We'll
It's
give
a
a-
version of the scavenger hunt. I did it with my high schoolers and they had to go find the things, but the thing that was different about it was they had to read scripture first and find the piece of the scripture is what they had to go find. So if it had bread in it, in the scripture, then they had to go find bread. So it puts a little Bible study spin on it as well.
That's great. Do we have somebody else?
Yeah, I was going to share. That's the wonderful thing about Zoom, right? Is talking over people. Similar to your movie, guess the movie, around Christmas time, I did a trivia where I played like 5 seconds, the first 5 seconds of a Christmas song, and then they had to guess it. So it could be done with music too.
Yeah, great idea. Great idea. No, using another sense. That's really good. That's really good.
As the weather gets warmer, if the kids are all using a phone as opposed to a computer for Zoom, you could probably even change up a scavenger hunt and do it, take a walk in your neighborhood and find X, Y, and Z and share it, you know, in some fashion like that. So they're out and about, not sitting.
Yeah. No, that's good. That's good. Thank you, Andrea. Okay, so any questions? We're kind of wrapping up. I'm going to go ahead and put that. If you don't have it, that is the link for the handout from this class. Jamie and I will try to figure out how we're going to do the slides for this presentation. But any questions that you have?
My question is, how did you put the countdown into your PowerPoint?
So in PowerPoint, you have the ability to do animations, and you can have things come in and leave the screen. And so I used an animation, and I just had them pop up to come up the screen. Good question.
My question is, how do you deal with accessibility where you have like maybe almost everybody is on a computer Zooming and maybe even has a second device, and then somebody's calling in on the Zoom, so they're can't participate in the same way.
Say Molly, say that one more time. Say it one more time.
Like if you're doing Zoom and you have most people on computers, but then you have somebody who's calling in, so you know they can't really see the screen or other things.
Oh, you mean they're calling in using a phone and they don't have the video capability.
Right.
Well, you could use that one where we do the music, the songs. I mean, that would be auditory. That's a great substitution. I think also you might be able to have something for some of these that involve email. They might be able to email them in beforehand, and so you're sharing it with folks, but you might share them with them later by email so they can actually see what other people did. But yeah, you're right. That is a true challenge for these activities. And maybe there's a chance that that you would be doing more of these activities when everyone had the ability to. Maybe at certain times of the day, that person might have more access or something like that. For them. No, that is a challenge. I know that's a challenge for a lot of us. All right. Well, my time is up, and I thank y'all for being a part of this. Just because of who I am, I just want to throw out 3 websites. If you're looking for a great place for a retreat, bookaretreat.com. These are also in the handout. If you're looking for a place, if you have somebody in your congregation who's looking for a summer job this summer, a lot of our camps are going to be running or hope to be running. And so summertoremember.com is a great place to find that. And if you have families in your congregation who are they're looking for a summer camp in which to send their child, bestsummeryet.com. So all of our Presbyterian camps are in these. as well as a few other ones are in there as well. But anyway, I throw those out to you. And so thanks for being a part of today's workshop. And I hope you have a great experience with all of your other sessions and all of your other plenaries here with APSI. Thanks, y'all. Y'all take care.